Good evening, everybody. I am Dr. Yashodhan Deka. I'm the Secretary in Albari Obstetrics and Gynecological Society, and it gives us immense pleasure to have all of you with us this evening to discuss on a very important and pertinent topic and a newer molecule that has come, which I personally feel is of great value. And ma'am will be, and I'm very pleased to welcome and have with us Dr. Sheila Mane, ma'am, which ma'am does not need much introduction, but of course we have to introduce her. So for chairing the sessions, we also have Dr. Bipin Talukdar, sir. He's the president of Nalbari Obstetrics and Gynec Society. So sir, if you would like to say a few words, please welcome ma'am, and we'll move ahead with our show.
We welcome you all to this NOGS webinar, and I welcome our most respected Madam Sheila Mane. She needs no introduction. At present, she is a senior consultant of obstetrics gynecology, Aurangabad Nursing Home, and she was in service in Foxy also, and she has received so many prizes: Best Community Report, Population Safe Motherhood, and so many. So I need not elaborate description about her, and I welcome Mrs. Dr. Sheila Mane to this our webinar. Welcome, Madam, sir. Madam.
So before thank you for the invitation from Nalbari Society, and thank you Dr. Deka and Dr. Sarma for that kind introduction. And I'm really happy to deliver my talk. So before I go on to carbetocin, we will just have an overview also of PPH, and then I'll proceed with the presentation. Can I see, you can see my slides?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So let us have one, we'll go through the prevention and preparedness for postpartum hemorrhage. And I'm sure that all of us are aware of this, but as we still know that PPH is the major killer and contributor to maternal mortality, we have to really go on updating ourselves. Now, it approximately affects 5% of all birthing women, and it's a leading cause of maternal mortality. And it is estimated that there are 10-year misses for every one maternal death due to PPH. And I think that is also a cause of concern. It is not only the mortality, but even the morbidity also we will have to look into. Improving clinical skills and knowledge of the risk factors of PPH are instrumental in preventing morbidity and mortality. And our goal is to reduce the global maternal mortality ratio to less than 70 per 1 lakh live births by 2030. And I think we have to still really work hard for that. Now, just look at the common preventable errors. All of us, we know that postpartum hemorrhage is a preventable cause. Under recognition of blood loss is most common, because most of the time what happens is that the patient has gone into shock and then we notice. Lack of appropriate attention to clinical signs of hemorrhage and associated hypovolemia, failure to act decisively with life-saving interventions, and failure to restore the blood volume in a timely manner. So these are the main things. Now, definitions, all of us we know that for a vaginal delivery it is 500 ml, and for a cesarean delivery it is 1000 ml. Now, secondary PPH from 24 hours to 6 weeks postpartum, massive and severe PPH is defined as a blood loss of 1000 ml or more within the same time frame. Now, PPH can be classified as minor, major. Again, major is divided into moderate and severe. So moderate means we can take up to 1000 to 2000 ml, and severe is more than 2000 ml. For clinical purposes, any blood loss that has the potential to produce hemodynamic instability should be considered as PPH. Now, the definition of massive obstetric hemorrhage is variably defined as blood loss from the uterus or genital tract of more than 1500 ml, or a rate of blood loss of 150 ml per minute, or 50% of blood volume loss within 3 hours, or decrease in hemoglobin of 4 gram, more than 4 gram per deciliter, or acute loss requiring transfusions of more than 4 units of Paxil transfusion, or any hemorrhage associated with hemodynamic instability. We are all aware of the 40s and atony being the commonest, that is 70%. And these are the causes defined under every T. If it is due to atony, there could be history of previous PPH, multiparity, grand multipara, fetal macrosomia, polyhydramnias, failure to progress in second stage of labor, prolonged third stage of labor, associated fibroids, general anesthesia, or could be trauma, that is operative deliveries, perineal lacerations, episiotomy, could be tissue, retained placenta or placenta aggregata. Can you just excuse me for a while? Sorry. So it could be trauma due to either operative deliveries or lacerations or episiotomy, and retained tissue is retained placenta or placenta accreta. Now, placenta accreta, all of us we know, is on the rise because of the increase in the incidence of cesarean section, and thrombin could be related to preeclampsia, HELP, bleeding disorders, sepsis, or if the patient is on any anticoagulants. So there are three broad areas in which the outcome from PPH may be improved, that is prevention, treatment, and rescue. Now, prevention covers antenatal strategies, active management of third stage of labor, and the treatments of retained placenta. These are all preventions. And treatment covers both medical and surgical. And rescue therapies include IV fluids, blood transfusion, coagulation correction, and supportive care such as compression garment or could be even balloon tamponade. So this is the histogram of blood loss at delivery, showing the death zone at a loss of over 40% of blood volume. And just now I told you about the definition of massive blood loss. So definitely if it is 40%, and the maternal mortality rate will be very high. So now we have to predict PPH antenatally. Then anemia, which is so common, and I'm sure that in Assam I have heard that anemia is so common. Previous history of PPH, retained placenta, maternal age 35 years or more, BMI of more than 35 kg per meter square, grand multipara, antepartum hemorrhage, overdistension of uterus, pre-existing uterine abnormalities. Now we have to also take account of risk factors in labor, like induction of labor, prolonged all the stages of labor, secondary arrest of labor, use of oxytocin, precipitate labor, operative delivery, or cesarean section. Now, how do we prevent PPH? The patient safety bundle is a set of straightforward evidence-based recommendations for practice and care processes known to improve the outcome. So the consensus bundle on obstetric hemorrhage is organized into 4 action domains: readiness, recognition, and prevention. And after that, response and reporting and system learning. So there are 13 key elements within these 4 action domains. That is readiness, recognition, and prevention, response, reporting, and system learning. Readiness, every unit, okay, hemorrhage cart with supplies, checklist, and instruction cards for even intrauterine balloons and compression sutures. Immediate access to hemorrhage medications. We should have a PPH drug kit which is kept in the refrigerator and written on that PPH drug kit, because we may be using oxytocin for active management of third stage of labor. That should be kept separately because that is used for every patient. Establish a response team, that is whom to call when help is needed. Even you have to alert your blood bank, advanced gynecological surgery surgeons, other support, and tertiary services. You have to establish massive and emergency release transfusion protocols. Why? Because all the tertiary hospitals who are getting a lot of load of all morbid patients or referred cases should have a type O negative blood available in their blood bank. Because if the patient lands up in the 4th stage where the patient is almost pulseless or BP-less, there is no time to cross-match the blood. So immediately you can ask the blood bank to dispatch O negative blood and you don't even have to cross-match. Unit education on protocols and unit-based drills are very important. And after the drills, we should conduct the debriefs. Then recognition and prevention. Assessment of hemorrhage risk. We just now discussed measurement of cumulative blood loss, either formal or as quantitative, and active management of third stage of labor, That is recognition and prevention. Response, again, unit standard, stage-based obstetric hemorrhage plan with checklist. Support program even for patients, families, and staff. Very important. Nowadays, we have to talk to them. Reporting and system learning, establish a culture of hurdle for high-risk patients and post-event briefs. Okay, so we have to have the audit. Multidisciplinary review of serious hemorrhages for system issues, and monitor the outcome and the process metrics in perinatal quality improvement, because perinatal quality equally important. So the readiness domain includes 5 areas of focus to be addressed by every facility to prevent the delay and prepare for the optimal management of obstetric hemorrhage cases. So the readiness aims at improving interdepartmental coordination, which is very important. All of us, we know about these drugs. This should be stored. And another new drug which should be added to hemorrhage medication kit is tranexamic acid, and now it will be carbetocin because it is available in India. So we will have to add. So you will have to keep maximum drugs available there. Okay. So oxytocin, then you may have to add it to the IV fluid. So you can also keep the pre-mixed bags ready. Then ergometrin, then misoprostol, methyl ergonovin, as well as the carboplast. Even for traumatic PPH, you should keep the separate set ready. Vaginal retractors, long with its speculum, long instruments like needle holders, scissors, Kelly's clamp, sponge holders, intrauterine balloon, bunjo curate, bright ask light, and procedural instructions. Now, you need more sponge holding forceps whenever there is a trauma. And nowadays, what we have seen, even we try to clamp the uterine for atonic PPH from below. So it is good to have these type of sponge holding forceps. And cesarean laparotomy, most of the time our OTs are already prepared and they will have all this. So, and now there is a special needle and suture also available for Bill-Lynch, so we can have that. And procedural instructions. Suppose if any new person is there who is a house surgeon or a resident, it is better to keep all these things ready. A response team. Determine who will be the part of the core response team. So primary maternity care provider and nurse, clinicians from anesthesiology, transfusion services, pharmacy, advanced gynecological surgery, critical care medicine, the main operating room, interventional radiology in case if she's a case of adherent placenta where prophylactically we would like to put the catheter already for uterine artery embolization, and additional nursing resources. Use readily available phone or page numbers or a rapid response or a code system in case of an emergency. And I always prefer to say that let us have a H code for hemorrhage. So you have to establish massive and emergency release transfusion protocols. Now, the massive transfusion protocol facilitates rapid dispensing of RBCs should come first, plasma and platelets in a predefined ratio, intended to preclude the development of dilutional coagulopathy, because if we go on giving only IV fluids, the patient will have dilutional coagulopathy that can result if a significant percent of patient's blood is replaced with large quantities of only crystalloids, colloids, or RBCs. So depending on the patient's general condition, we will know how much blood she has lost. As volume is replaced, attention must be paid to the coagulation parameters, platelet count, and metabolic status. As such, there are no guidelines for activating the massive transfusion protocol, which is called as MTP. The criteria are varied and include when patient is less than 90 millimeters of mercury, pH is less than 7.1, base deficit is more than 6 milliequivalent per liter, temperature below 34 centigrade. Very important, you have to prevent hypothermia, INR more than 2, she's already gone into coagulopathy, platelet count less than 50,000. So blood bank should issue, in this case, you should ask the blood bank to issue 6 units of PRB. So earlier what we used to say, our protocol is 1:1:1. That is BRBC, FFP, platelet. But now we have added one more one, and that is cryo, because we do not want to wait till the patient goes into hypofibrinogenemia, and cryoprecipitate will quickly replace the fibrinogen. So drills. A drills refers to a clear and logical set of steps involved in the patient management. All team members are familiarized with entire safety bundle and new management plan, and participating members are assigned the tasks and responsibilities necessary to run the drills, and we should do the debriefing post drill, and it may be combined with practicing infrequently used hemorrhage technical skills. Like you can teach them how to do the tamponade balloon or apply the anti-shock garment. Coming to recognition and prevention, identification of risk helps to improve the readiness. So allow increased surveillance and early recognition. Increase the use of preventive measures, aggressive response to bleeding. And risk assessment should be considered at multiple points, like during patient care, antepartum, on admission to labor intrapartum, and even late in labor or after the delivery. Now, the clinical parameters to be assessed. Vital parameters, yes, all of us we know will be checking everything. But if you find that the systolic blood pressure is less than 80 and is associated with worsening tachycardia, then also look at the altered metal status is indicated of a pph of more than 1500 ml. That means we have already gone into class 3. Rule of 30 we can follow. Systolic blood pressure less than 30. So fall in more than 30 millimeters of mercury. Pulse rate increased by 30 beats per minute. Urine output less than 30 ml per hour. Decrease in hematocrit by 30%. And this all amounts to blood loss of more than 30% of whole blood volume, which goes again where you will have the patient in hypotension and you will have to order for blood products. Shock index, again, very easy to calculate, pulse rate divided by systolic blood pressure. And if it is more than 1, it indicates that the patient is in shock. Normally it is 0.5 to 0.7. If it reaches 0.9, that means your patient is in hypovolemia. More than 1.2, already patient has lost 30%. So the class 1 and class 2 less than 15% and 50 to 30%. In less than 15%, not much change at all. Okay. Only thing is the patient might faint when she is shifted to the postnatal ward. So you can manage with crystolite. In stage 2, again, there might be slight tachycardia, but there will be a drop in the diastolic blood pressure. The capillary refill is more than 3 seconds. Here it is less than 3 seconds in class 1. Respiratory rate slightly. So you can manage with crystallites, but you have to arrange for 2 PR bases, 2 pins. In 30-40%, you know that the patient will have a low BP, systolic, diastolic, tachycardia, respiratory rate increase. Patient will be confused and it will still worsen. All these cases, you will have to ask for blood and blood products immediately. Replace with crystolite either 2 liters or 1:3, and prenatal suspected previa, acrita, incrita, percrita, pre-pregnancy BMI more than 50, clinically significant bleeding disorder, and significant medical and surgical risk. On admission, large myoma, large baby, obesity, hematocrit less than 30, because if she is anemic with 350 ml blood loss, she can become hemodynamically unstable. And all other high risk are placenta previa, low line, suspected acrita, percrita, low platelet count, active bleeding, known coagulopathy. And if there are 2 or more median risk factors, she becomes high risk. Okay. Intrapartum risk, chorea amnionitis, prolonged second stage, magnesium sulfate if it is used, and high risk is. Coming to the measurement of a cumulative blood loss. Now, the visual estimation of blood loss, sometimes called a glance and a gaze, is a common practice, but it definitely results in an underestimation by almost 33 to 50%. And in the beginning only, the error is the underestimation of the blood loss, particularly when large volumes are lost. So we can do either direct measurement and can be accomplished by 2 complementary. Protect drapes for vaginal birth or calibrated canisters for cesarean birth. Second approach is to weigh the blood soaked items and clots, and the weight of dry parts is subtracted from the total weight to obtain an estimate. Where even if your meters completely soaked is 60 ml, medium 30 to 30, 140 ml, large 45 to 45 centimeters is 350 ml. And if you have 1 kg soaked swabs, it is more than 1000 ml. Kidney dish full of clots is 500. If there is a 50 centimeter diameter floor spill, it is 500 ml. 75 centimeter is 1000. 100 centimeter diameter floor spill is 1500. Vaginal PPH less than 500 will be, sorry, limited to bed only will be less than 1000. But if it has 1000 ml. So we can also train our people in labor room like this. Active management of third stage of labor, I don't have to talk here because all of us are practicing that. And we'll come to carbetocin now. And these are the response team. So obstetric hemorrhage emergency management plan, a critical initial steps to determine the etiology, then the stage-based management plans, and they ensure that the resources are not wasted, and each institution need to adjust the plan to meet its individual capability. So this is already we discussed according to the stage what we have to do. And if it is a stage 1, high risk. If it is a stage 1, you have to get the 2 units of PRBCs ready because the patient has lost more than 500 ml. Okay, stage 0 is patient has not, is not in the, still in the PPH stage. So stage 0, but type and screen. If she is high risk, you cross match and keep. Stage 1, you will have to get 2 units of PRBCs. In stage 2, depending on the patient condition, you will have to. So all of us must have a 16 gauge cannula in our labor rooms. We should draw the blood, send it for the coagulation profile and the CBC. If there is a trauma, repair that. Retained placenta, remove that. We can use an intrauterine balloon or selective embolization. And if it is a cesarean, if it is a broad ligament hematoma, you will have to inspect. If atony, use compression sutures. Okay. And if there are any bleedings, then we will have to repair that. If there is a rupture, she may require hysterectomy. Okay. And depending on the blood loss, you will have to arrange for the blood. In last, that is when there is a profuse bleeding, your patient is in shock, you will have to immediately ask the blood bank to give you 1:1:1:1 all the blood and blood products, and you will have to have a multidisciplinary team. Now, the support program for patients, women and their families need timely information, reassurance, and opportunities to discuss the incident and the maternity care provider. Reporting and system learning, very important. Establish a culture of hurdles and debrief. Multidisciplinary review of serous hemorrhages and monitor the outcome and the process metrics. And these are the different methods that how you can use prompt, MOET, all these things to train the people to do the drills. And if there is an obstetric emergency, we can have simulation training also, and not technical skills are communication, teamwork, and leadership. So the patient is in the center. So we have to have a individual medical professionals who are trained. Expertise is important, experience is important, multidisciplinary team, infrastructure, simulation training, intrapartum assessment, as well as antenatal assessment. So prevention and management of PPH for home, I will not talk because we are not doing, but if we have ASHAs in the periphery, we have asked them to give them 3 tablets of misoprostol if they deliver at home. And facility treatment, again, depending on the place where the patient is admitted, we will have to do. Otherwise, there should be a facility to refer the patient because we have a PSC, then we have a CSC. Okay, so now depending on that, a PSC should have an ambulance, should have an anti-shock garment, and they should have a communication with the CSC or FRU where they are going to refer the patient. FRU should have the facility of blood storage units. The blood bank facility, I think you will have to mute somebody from the audience, please. The FRU should have the facility for blood storage because sometimes the blood banks are not available everywhere. Okay, but operation theater will be there, so we can have a blood storage facility and specifically to store O negative blood. Okay, I'm not going into the details of every treatment because all of us we know, I hope that all of you have a NSG available, because I've heard that all the hilly areas, NSG, non-pneumatic anti-shock garment is available, and it will be good to have in your area, because when you have to refer the patient, it is better to have a NSG. It is better to train the people to do the balloon tamponade, as well as to train them for surgical methods. Okay, so it depends management whether you are in a CSC or whether in a district hospital or whether you are in a tertiary hospital. Coming to carbetocin. Now, carbetocin is a newer long-acting synthetic analog of oxytocin with agonist properties. After IV injection, it produces sustained uterine contractions within 2 minutes, lasting for approximately 6 minutes, followed by rhythmic contractions for 60 minutes. That is the advantage. And when it is administered as an IM injection, the sustained contraction lasts for approximately 11 minutes and rhythmic for 120 minutes. It is heat stable and was found to be stable even at 30 degrees centigrade for 3 years, 40 degrees for 6 months, 50 degrees for 3 months, and definitely not more than that in our country. And a recent Cochrane review of 140 randomized trials, including almost 90,000 women, found that the combination of uterotonics and carbetocin were better at preventing PPH of more than 500 ml than oxytocin alone. And if there is a PPH of more than 1000 ml, instead of using this, we can use carbetocin. So these are the WHO recommendations. I'll come to in detail about carbetocin. Coming to the non-pneumatic anti-shock garment, it is a life-saving first aid device, controls the bleeding, reverses shock, stabilizes the patient condition to enable transfer to higher center. And it is lightweight. It applies pressure to lower body, almost increases the blood pressure by 20 to 40 millimeters of mercury, and abdomen, thereby increasing the venous return, stabilizing vital signs, resolving hypovolemic shock. And direct pressure on fundus of the uterus thereby reduces bleeding, acts like autotransfusion, and WHO has recommended this. Okay, so coming to the carbetocin. Now, where all we can use it? PPH after cesarean deliveries. Now, cesarean deliveries have become an epidemic in India, and we have recorded 300% jump in last decade. Okay, and the incidence of PPH are high in cesarean deliveries than in vaginal deliveries. Cesarean 6.7, vaginal delivery 2 to 4. So PPH is more likely to happen after cesarean as compared to vaginal deliveries, and approximately 36% of cesarean deliveries are complicated by PPH. And that is why even more medical legal cases all over India are due to PPH. And therefore, it is a common practice to give a uterotonic drug following delivery of the neonate during cesarean section. And what is the international consensus statement on the use of uterotonic agents during cesarean section? Uterotonic agents like oxytocin or carbetocin are recommended for routine administration immediately after delivery of the fetus during cesarean section to prevent postpartum hemorrhage. Now, it is very essential during cesarean section and in the third stage of labor for vaginal delivery to diminish the risk of PPH and improve the maternal safety. Classification, oxytocin and carbetocin are primary posterior pituitary hormone and analogs. Ergot alkaloids and prostaglandins and analogs all are secondary line agents. So oxytocin and carbetocin, which are first line agents. Okay, and they are gold standard treatment for PPH. Now, what about oxytocin? Oxytocin is short acting, half-life is 4 to 10 minutes, duration of action is 15 to 20 minutes, and it must be administered as a continuous IV infusion to attain sustained uterine activity throughout the surgical procedure and after the delivery, immediate postpartum period. And it causes receptor desensitization because it is used for either inducing or augmentation of labor. It may desensitize the oxytocin receptors, thereby impairing the oxytocin's post-delivery effect on uterine contractility. So there are various international bodies and trials have recommended different dosages of oxytocin. Thus, there is no consistency in dosage regimen, which results in error in its administration. And it is also known as high alert medication because direct IV oxytocin can cause side effect. So what is the need of an hour? We need an oxytocin, which is longer acting, single dose, no variation in dose regimes, divide of repeated administration, superior efficacy or similar efficacy as that of oxytocin, divide of receptor desensitization, and superior side effects profile over oxytocin. So carbetocin is a synthetic analog of human oxytocin with some structural modifications as shown below, where you can see the three circles where there is a difference between the oxytocin and carbetocin. And that is the reason that these structural modifications increases the half-life of carbetocin, thereby prolonging its pharmacological effects. And WHO, that has included in the essential medicine list of utrotonic for the prevention of excessive bleeding after the childbirth. And this is the recommendation by the WHO for the use of utrotonics for the prevention of PPH. It is there, very much there in the WHO list, oxytocin, and then it is carbetocin. So effective utrotonic in its 2018 guidelines, but prostaglandin comes as a secondary. Now carbetocin versus oxytocin. Half-life for carbetocin is 40 minutes, is 10-fold higher than oxytocin, which is 4 minutes. Duration action of carbetocin is longer than IV and IM oxytocin, and a single IV bolus injection was at least as effective for 16 hours of continuous oxytocin infusion, that is comparable. You don't have to repeat the injection, no dose variation. So it is found to be superior over oxytocin with respect to its pharmacokinetic parameters and single dose administration. How does it work?
A postpartum hemorrhage, or PPH, is an obstetrical emergency affecting an estimated 10% of all live births. It is the most preventable cause of maternal death. The uterine arteries pump 500 to 700 milliliters per minute into the site at which the placenta is attached to the uterus. After birth, this blood could potentially flow into the uterine cavity and be lost from circulation. In most cases of vaginal delivery, however, the myometrium contracts firmly, compressing the blood vessels and thereby reducing blood flow. A cesarean delivery can increase the risk of a PPH developing due to the insufficient contraction of the uterine musculature. Carbetocin specifically targets uterine atony. Carbetocin is administered as a single intravenous injection. After injection, carbetocin is carried rapidly to its site of action, the smooth muscle cells in the uterus. Here, it binds to oxytocin receptors. In this way, a signaling cascade is started. As a result, the smooth muscle cells of the myometrium start contracting regularly. This causes the leaking blood vessels in the uterus to be compressed and to constrict. The overall effect, the bleeding stops and uterine involution is furthered.
So it has been used and studied throughout the world. Now, there are some clinical studies, management of third stage of labor during vaginal delivery and prevention of PPH following cesarean delivery. So this is one of the study where the randomized control trial was done, comparing carbetocin, misoprostol, and oxytocin for the prevention of PPH. And if we compare, we found that the carbetocin group required less number of additional utrotonics than the oxytocin and misoprostol. Blood loss was comparable between carbetocin and oxytocin compared to misoprostol, and bleeding was also lesser with carbetocin, and blood transfusion was not required in carbetocin group. So additional utrotonics were needed less frequently by patients treated with carbetocin. Now, following cesarean delivery, again, this was a comparative study between the effect of carbetocin and oxytocin and on isoflurane-induced uterine hypotonia in twin pregnancy patients undergoing cesarean section, that was general anesthesia. So this was the comparison. And again, they found that carbetocin patient required less number of additional utrotonics even compared to oxytocin. Postpartum blood loss was comparatively lesser with carbetocin, and blood transfusion also required in less percentage with carbetocin. Then again, oxytocin plus misoprostol and comparison of carbetocin. So carbetocin versus sublingual misoprostol plus oxytocin infusion at cesarean in patient with risk factors. This was again a randomized open trial study. And what they found, misoprostol was 400, Carbetocin group, additional uterotonics only 13 point, but oxytocin plus misoprostol was 16.3, not much difference. Blood loss was also okay, but the blood transfusion was not required, definitely lesser in a lesser number of patients in the carbetocin group. So it's found to be superior over even combination of oxytocin plus misoprostol with respect to all efficacy parameters. So these are again the different clinical studies of carbetocin versus oxytocin plus ergometry. Okay, and outcome measures were again uterine tone, need of additional oxytocin, and blood loss. So even with combination of oxytocin and ergometry, also carbetocin required less number of oxytocin and even the less atonic PPH with carbetocin group. So more potent carbetocin it is found to be, and long-acting oxytocin with less need for other additional uterotonic drugs and less occurrence of uterine atony. So this was again only with ergometry in comparison, and again with only ergometry also carbetocin is proven to be definitely a better drug. So the Cochrane collaboration authors' conclusions were, for women who undergo cesarean section, carbetocin resulted in a statistically significant reduction in the need for therapeutic uterotonics compared to oxytocin, and carbetocin is associated with less blood loss, okay, and less adverse side effects. So this was again particularly in efficacy of reduced pain perception, okay. So pain perception also was found to be better with carbetocin. Post-operative pain in the day of surgery was significantly lower than oxytocin group, okay, and remained significant till the third day after cesarean section. So that was again one of the this one, and there was a maintenance of uterine tone and on the limitation of blood loss also in peri and post-operative period. It was found to be better. Then this was again for prevention of postpartum hemorrhage after cesarean section. So almost every study we find that definitely the carbetocin has less blood loss, better uterotonic, less side effects, less additional oxytocin, and lesser side effects. Okay. This was with severe preeclampsia. Here again the 100 microgram of carbetocin was used, plus ringer lactate solution of 10 ml was injected directly into the vein over 2 minutes. That was given. And oxytocin was used as 20 units in 1 liter of RL, administered IV at a rate of 125 ml per hour. And the primary outcome measure was PPH requiring additional uterotonics. Secondary outcome, difference in hemoglobin levels between groups, the development of oligouria, hemodynamic status, that is the mean arterial pressure and heart rate after the administration of the drugs. And they found that carbetocin is an appropriate alternative to oxytocin for the prevention of PPH in women with severe preeclampsia, considering that it appears not to have a major hemodynamic effect in women with severe PE, and that it uses a lower volume per dose than oxytocin. It should be considered as a valid option in the management of third stage of labor in women with hypertensive disorders. And I feel that if patient is already having severe preeclampsia, we would like to give her lesser IV fluids. So definitely if we are giving oxytocin, we will have to continue the IV line, and the load can be more. Another thing is more oxytocin can have a anti-diuretic effect also. So definitely carbetocin will be a better choice. Comparison with carboprost. Carboprost is second line, carbetocin is first line. Not recommended for man in prevention of PPH, but it is recommended. Yes, side effects are more with carboprost, and it is contraindicated in asthma. With carbetocin, no such severe incidences found, but it should be used with caution in asthma. So management of third stage of labor during vaginal delivery in patients with singleton or in high-risk pregnancy or in cesarean delivery, whether it is elective or high-risk cesarean or with twin pregnancy, carbetocin is proved to be superior over oxytocin and other uterotonics with respect to prevention of PPH, estimated blood loss after delivery, need of additional uterotonic agents, decrease in hemoglobin levels, need of blood transfusions, perception of pain after the section, and side effect profile. So in Indian scenario, we know that the Champion trial, which was happened, and it was also conducted in India in many centers, This was carried out by WHO, where the carbetocin versus oxytocin was studied across 23 centers in 10 countries. And in India, it was at Shri Ram Chandra Bhanja Medical College, Cuttack. Then it was there in Karnataka in 2 places. I know that. That is at Belgaum and at Bagalkot, and then BHU University. So carbetocin proved to be non-inferior to oxytocin with ease of single dose administration. In our conference also, there was a talk about that, and it was talked about the superiority by Dr. Uma Pandey. And this is the product profile. Carbetocin injection 100 microgram per ml, and it's a solution for injection. It is indicated for prevention of uterine atony and excessive bleeding following delivery of the baby by cesarean or by vaginal delivery. And dose and profile, the drug profile, a single dose should be administered IV as a bolus injection slowly over 1 minute after delivery of the infant, and in vaginal delivery after delivery of the infant for the active management of 3rd stage of labor, IV as a bolus injection slowly over 1 minute. So you have to give it slowly over 1 minute. That should be followed. So in summary, it is superior over oxytocin with respect to all these factors which I have already mentioned, and even superior over ergot alkaloids for prevention of PPH, for blood loss, need for additional uterotonics, need of blood transfusion, and better. Again, comparing everything, even if you compare it with prostaglandins, prevention of PPH, blood loss after delivery, need of additional uterotonic agents, we definitely know that it is better. Okay, so carbetocin is most efficient uterotonic and was most awaited uterotonic, and it has arrived now in India. And it is already used in Europe and Canada. We were waiting. And one good thing is that it is heat stable. So dear friends, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I think that is very true when it is PPH, because we know that the blood and blood products are not easily available. Our women are anemic. So we would definitely like to see that oxytocin, which controls PPH, which treats PPH, as well as reduces the blood loss. Thank you very much for your patient here. And I think we can take the questions now.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that, for the wonderful presentation. And I felt I was back in college, and it was wonderful brushing up, listening to one of our professors. It was absolutely, I mean, I was just listening to plain simple PPH after so long. It was like I'm a student again. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, one point of interest which all of us are wondering is this molecule. Yes, it's a single dose, ease of administration. What is the safety efficacy of this molecule? Because oxytocin, what we all had to be a little careful was bolus dose, which can lead to water intoxication syndrome. So, ma'am, any such incidents reported with this molecule, and is there anything that we should be wary about before we start using this molecule?
No, that's what I said, that it is already there in Europe and Canada. And we were waiting for a heat stable carbetocin for our country. That is the main thing, because oxytocin is heat stable. Now, if you see whatever we say, the cold chain management is very difficult in our country. Okay. So it has to be, the cold chain has to be maintained. Suppose if the cold chain is not maintained, the oxytocin loses its potency. Like even if it is not kept in the refrigerator, the temperature has to be less than 30 degrees for a 3 months shelf life, which is not possible in India. And it has to be the refrigerator also, how many times it is opened, whether the temperature is maintained or not. So if it is not heat stable, it loses its potency. Second thing, as you rightly said, that it is antidiuretic if it is given in higher dosages, definitely not the regular dose. And we have to also use IV fluids for that. So carbetocin, if given, I think for 120 minutes, it causes rhythmic contractions and it maintains the contraction. That is why definitely the blood loss is going to be less with carbetocin. It is nothing but it is the same group, but because of the change in the structure, it is long acting. So the side effects which are there, antidiuretic action, is definitely not there with carbetocin. And in a high risk patients like severe preeclampsia, we have seen the study where it is being used. Okay. So that day when I was having a discussion, like we had many patients with COVID positive now for delivery. Okay. And I was just thinking that Why not carbetocin for this patient? Because we would not like to overload them now with oxytocin if they have, like, suppose
Right.
if they develop any PPH or anything. So I was just thinking even for them also carbetocin will be a better choice.
I think we'll have to wait for a study to come up of carbetocin in COVID pregnancies. Maybe that
Yeah,
will
that
be.
we no, carbetocin is at least available in Assam now. It is still
Yes.
not there with us in South.
Yeah, it's
It
available.
is not.
Now
Yeah.
it's available, and yes, ma'am, you were true that in our part of the country, more than anemia, what is very important is our terrain, and we have such difficult terrains. I have some friends who literally get on a boat to do a cesarean section in today's era, which is so
Oh,
difficult to hear. But people are actually in places like Majuli and Upper Assam. People are
okay.
literally going on boats because now the government has at least managed to start cesarean sections even in PHCs. So that is a good
PHC,
step.
PHC or CSC?
CHC, ma'am. So they have
Huh.
started cesareans there, but some CHCs are also located in such difficult terrains that,
Oh,
especially during these monsoon seasons, the only way you can get there is by boat. So it's very
Bapre.
interesting.
I think you should tell me all these stories. You know that I work for PPH, you know. I
Yes,
mean,
ma'am. You are the biggest lady of India. So let the season be better. Let the world be better, and we'll love to have you here in our part of the country, ma'am. So
I
thank
think I
you.
will share with you in Tanzania. In Tanzania, which is
Yes, ma'am.
on a hilly area,
Yes, ma'am.
see those people, they use drones to
Okay.
deliver the blood and blood products as well as the anti-shock garment. Why not
Yes.
we? You know, we have drone attacks on our Air Force base, right?
Yes.
So,
Drone.
Definitely we can use
no,
them
people are
for-
thinking of delivering the, the provisions by drones in metro cities. See, you people are in a terrain where, and it can carry 1.5 kg weight. So the sample, a cross-match sample can be sent by drone, and a cross-match blood can be sent by drone back to the facility. It happens in Tanzania. I mean, we are known for our, what we call it a jugad. You know,
Jugaad.
Indians, we are known for jugad. Okay. So we have to really, I mean, you people can think of all these things. If you are facing problems where blood and blood products are not available. And I just want to know one thing. Do you have anti-shock garment in every facility?
No, ma'am.
No, you must have it. You must have it. Are you
No,
working in a medical college or in a private setup?
we are in a private setup.
But there are medical colleges also, and PSC and CSCs are there. See,
Yes.
one thing I want to tell you about anti-shock garment in Tamil Nadu, they have a structure. Every PSC has 2, every CSC has 2, every medical college has 4, every ambulance has 1. So when the
Wow.
patient is referred, they get the replacement garment. Okay?
Okay.
The ambulance driver knows how to apply the anti-shock garment. And I think if Assam it is not there, then I will not call myself as a PPH lady unless and until there is an anti-shock garment in Assam now. I think you
And that,
people have to
I absolutely
really,
trust.
yeah, please tell me whom to contact, how to go ahead about it. Okay, I have made it available in Karnataka. I spoke to the family welfare department. We did. And now, you know, through webinar, I can do the coaching and teaching and everything.
Correct. ma'am.
Okay. Now it is happening in UP, Bihar and Jharkhand. We can also do in Assam also. And I think, you know, for, yeah, tell me.
Definitely, ma'am. I think that's what I was also. I looked at that part with very much interest, and it's nothing. I mean, it's not rocket science. I think
No.
it's something very easy and life saving. That and which you said that even the drivers know how to apply. Because, ma'am, we get patients at night where really we feel so bad because we are in the periphery, and we get patients from all draining areas, and particularly at night time. I mean, just 2 days back also we lost a patient because of non-availability of blood, and she came in shock. Wish we
Oh,
could do something, but we could not. So
yeah.
definitely we'll do something about it and get in touch with you regarding that.
Yeah, I think we have to really take it seriously. Okay. So be in
So we
touch
have,
with me. Yeah.
yes,
Any
surely,
other
ma'am.
questions? Yeah.
So now I like Dr. Bipin Talukdar sir to just say a few words and sum up the webinar, and thank you, ma'am, so much for. It was like a pure PG class for me. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sir, you have to unmute yourself. You're muted again.
Namaskar, Dr. Gopal Kalita.
Uh,
I have visited Guwahati and Dibrugarh, I think. Dibrugarh I had come last 2019.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah.
Thank you for your elaborate and exhaustive lecture. Actually, I was just as Joseph, I also feel like in my young days, those old days in the college. This is a new molecule. I have learned a lot from you this evening, and this was a very nice lecture. I have heard after many years actually. And so far PPS is concerned, many new things have been added now, and this is a new molecule added recently, and I think this will help us a lot.
Yes.
Thank you again for your very sweet and nice elaboration. Thank you, madam.
I think madam has lost the connection.
So meanwhile, we have Dr. Gopal Kolita with us, and he has been using carbetocin very recently. We have started using it. So, sir, please share your experiences. What have you experienced so far using carbetocin?
Yes, Dr. Sudon. When it was launched, I have started using as a single dose just after delivery of the baby. And initially, I started in some specific high risk patient like PIH or big baby or polyhydramnios. In those cases, result was good, and we are satisfied. And now at present, we are using in every cases instead of oxytocin or methyl argometrin.
So, Dr. Gopal Kolita, sir, do you think after using carbetocin, we haven't been, there was no need to use of any further oxytocin drip?
Yeah, I have stopped last 2-3 cases. I have instructed that there shouldn't be any oxytocin in maintenance as a maintenance therapy, and I have stopped the metharazine also, methyl argometrin also.
I think that is really great. That is a very good molecule that has come up, because a lot of cases we are not being able to give methergine or methyl argometrin.
Yeah,
certain contraindications. So I think it's a very convenient and does not require much training. What one thing I wanted to know from ma'am also, and from the company people as well, what is the safety profile of this molecule as compared to oxytocin? Is there any other safety concerns that we should be worried about? Because that is the most practical question that all of us as an obstetrician want to know today before we start a new molecule. We also have Dr. Vipin Talukdar sir with us. Sir, can you hear us? Sir, you have to unmute yourself. Parag, can you help unmute Dr. Vipin Talukdar sir?
Yes, sir.
While ma'am is back, I think we can have a little discussion. He's still on mute.
Do you hear me now?
Yes,
yes,
sir,
sir.
we can hear. So glad to see you after so long, sir. It's been a while since we've seen each other.
Talukdar sir is back.
Thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Gopal, you have been using carbetocin for last few months, I think.
No, not so much, but last 15-20 days only.
In the literature, it is written no other oxytocin should be used when use carbetocin. Is it? I have not been in practice in the last 1 year. I actually don't have any ideas about this new molecule, but I have heard from the literature there should not be any use of any argometrin or oxytocin once you use carbetocin.
Yes, I have never used methyl argometrin after carbetocin.
Is it cost effective?
Cost-wise, it is not so, but in comparison to the oxytocin, it is cost-effective, because oxytocin will have to
Use
maintain
many
yes, as a maintenance therapy.
Can I